Absolutely huge news coming out of Indiana spring practice as we have players leaving, NFL teams coming in by the hordes. I mean, NFL Network coming in to figure out what's going on here at Indiana, and then finally a couple players that we will not see this spring. One of them a little bit expected, the other one a little bit not expected. We'll see what happens with this entire situation, but very interested to talk about it all with you. The first order of business that we need to get to here is the player that is no longer with the Indiana Hoosiers, Kevontay Hugan, the highly touted four-star edge rusher / defensive lineman from Florida. He was, coming in the 2026 Indiana football signing class. He's quietly just seemingly vanished from the official roster just weeks into spring practice. His bio was scrubbed from the Indiana Athletics website. He's been absent from the spring practice roster that's been distributed to media. And I've actually talked to a couple of people behind the scenes, not enough to like make an official report on it, but people have definitely confirmed to me he is no longer there with the team. Does that mean he's never coming back? Not necessarily. We'll see what happens, but there's really been no official explanation that's been given at this point. There's a lot of speculation out there. I think at this point in time, it's best just to kind of let the story play out, let things happen. And if we get any word on what's going on, I'll let you know. But sounds like this is something that Indiana is trying to keep a little hush-hush right now. And for various reasons, it could be to protect the player. It could be something going on that maybe the player's trying to keep it quiet because something embarrassing happened. Who knows? But behind the scenes, there's a whole bunch of whispers that paint a picture of just this ultra competitive championship program. Now, I'm not saying this is why he's left, but you can definitely, have a thought process because of the gold shoes comment by Curt Cignetti and also some other stuff going on that, this was somebody that maybe just wasn't ready to come into the type of program that Indiana is. No nonsense, come in, make it happen. We don't know if there were any off-field issues or anything like that, but this was a blue chip recruit freshman that could have found, at least a depth spot on this team. And who knows, maybe he could even crack some snaps for this team next season. But there's a lot of people kind of inside the doors there for Indiana that hint at the Hoosiers defensive line already being very loaded. They have a lot of transfers coming in. They have returning talent in the interior as well, coming back from that national title run. Simply put, the room is pretty much full at this point. That doesn't mean that they didn't want him or anything like that, but that does mean that if Hugan maybe came in thinking he was going to get a little bit more playing time, maybe that doesn't happen. Now, things like this are not totally uncommon, right? Now, the thing that is interesting about this is if Hugan does try to go elsewhere, you do have that blind transfer stuff that's going on that could possibly get some other programs in trouble. So this is definitely a situation where I don't want to completely count him out from coming back, but it does not look good right now. But I wouldn't say this is a setback. I would say this is a sign of Indiana's standard. And it is now sky high that even somebody who comes in that's a four-star, I mean, somebody who came in as a four-star before would have been heralded, praised by the Indiana fans, coaches, everything, and keep them around as much as you can. Now, you don't necessarily have that as much. We got a lot of good players. We got a lot of good people here. If you can't assimilate and come into what we're doing here, then you might as well just get out of here. Again, not saying that's what happened, but I am saying that's kind of what the chatter is a little bit more. That's kind of what the rumors are. So we'll see if we get some more information later on. But even if this is a situation where like something happened and he wasn't the right fit for the team, I would say it was likely because of the team's high standard and what they try to go for, and maybe him just not fitting into that. Now, it's a high standard because of Indiana and how much talent and things like that they have on the roster. And that was on display for everybody to see at the Indiana Pro Day. Now, Alec Lastly here from On3, the Hoosier, does good reporting over there. I like Alec and his reporting and the stuff that he does. So Alec does a good job reporting this. And early on, he said sources, all 32 NFL teams are expected to have represented at Indiana Pro Day. In fact, Fernando Mendoza actually confirmed this, wasn't even asked to confirm it. He just confirmed it that every single NFL team was at the Indiana Pro Day. Indiana's Pro Day turned heads across the league, and it turned heads for people looking at their television as NFL Network had it on twice. They had it on at 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then they had it on from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock Wednesday evening, April 1st. A huge opportunity for Indiana to showcase themselves, showcase their coverage. I know there were some people saying like, well, why was there no music on and stuff like that? Well, it's probably because NFL Network is there and didn't want to get a copyright or anything like that. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe the Curt Cignetti just runs things that way. No, you know, nobody really knows because they're not letting a whole bunch of people in to just watch practice all day long or all this stuff. So it's one of the few opportunities that people get to actually be in there and see some of the work being done. But there's a lot of people behind the scenes that are buzzing about what they saw at the Pro Day here. I mean, obviously, Fernando Mendoza, likely the number 1 overall pick, Omar Cooper Jr., who, heard some rumblings that he has been shooting up the boards a little bit more as well, could be considered a top 3 receiver. There's talk about maybe some teams valuing him over a Makai Lemon, possibly, maybe even a Jordan Tyson, possibly as well. So that's very interesting to see Omar Cooper Jr. And that would be huge for Mike Shanahan as well, to be able to get a very highly drafted receiver in him this next season. And then the talk of it all was D'Angelo Pons. D'Angelo Pons ran a 4.31 40, which is blazing fast, but there were also others that were there that said they kind of had the eye on some of the NFL scouts and representatives. And there was even one guy who told me he saw an NFL scout clock D'Angelo Pons at 4.25. And he actually kind of showed it around to some of his NFL buddies and saying, we're going to need to take a second look at this kid if he has this type of speed. Now, for me personally, I don't value the 40 speed as much as some other people do, but it definitely shows a commitment. It definitely shows an athleticism to his game that is just spectacular and could be very, very beneficial for D'Angelo Pons in the NFL draft. Finally, last thing to get to here, we'll get to the players that are out right now in the spring, and one of them, the probably the most likely one that people recognize, Beebe Jr. Tore his ACL last season, early on in the season. He's progressing with his own timeline. When he did his interview, he talked about how things are good. He feels like himself again, but he's just not fully there, fully into spring practice yet. So he's still around the team and stuff. He had to watch the games from home at times last season, which that would really stink as somebody who is obviously as invested in this program as these Indiana players are, especially watching your guys go out there and win a national championship. I mean, obviously you're happy for him, but just for him to be back in the building and be around his guys a whole lot more consistently, not having to go through as much rehab, still has to do some rehab, but as much rehab. He's there in the building. He's with his dudes. It's huge for them. Beebe said, just hard work and grinding. I was out there today on the practice field and I was just feeling great. I feel like myself again. I just got to continue doing it. I'm like 6 months post injury in a couple of days. So he was on the field, not necessarily means he's back fully to being on the field, but on the field with his guys, able to run through a little bit of stuff, which is good for him and a very encouraging sign, especially for this Indiana running back room that lost Roman Hemby and the other who was blanking on the other one was, I apologize, the other running back there for Indiana. That's right, Kalen Black. I don't know how I blanked on Kalen Black. Fantastic season for him last year. Him and Roman Hemby were really a 1-2 punch, and so have something like that again would be really beneficial for him. And obviously, Beebe looking pretty jacked there. He definitely looks like he had some time to work out the upper body a little bit when he was coming back from that recovery. So interesting stuff there. Final guy to get to here who, if you've been paying attention, you know he is out for the spring, but maybe not everybody recognizes it. It's Carter Smith. Carter Smith, left tackle for this team, is out for the spring. When he did his press availability, he said, yeah, I was definitely pondering probably putting my name out there in the draft this year. Of course, he came back for a senior year. I think at the end of the day, I wanted to be able to put on film that even after an injury like this, where I need to have a full repair, that I can still put the same stuff on film. Now, of course, with this kind of injury, he probably wouldn't have been able to do a lot of the workouts and stuff like that he felt like he would want to do. So going back to Indiana for another season, making some good dough there with the NIL and everything, or whatever, rev share, whatever you want to call it right now. definitely a good situation for Curtis Smith. And this is the beauty of, NIL and rev share and stuff like that, that a guy like this who had a great season, was an All-American, was likely to be a high draft pick, but because of whatever, he was dealing with last season with his injury, I believe it was a shoulder surgery that he underwent in January, I think it was. So whatever he went through is something that he can come back for his final year at IU and have a good season there as a senior. So we will see how it all plays out. I think that this is a good situation for Indiana too, because you're going to get some other guys to be in there to play left tackle and things like that. And obviously it indicates that Indiana, no slouch on the NIL and the revenue sharing with these guys to be able to convince Carter Smith, just come back for one more year. Well, okay, if I have to, right? I'm sure he wasn't like that at all. So, but you get my drift here. So very interesting stuff.